Corekeeper is a game that I played before I even had this channel. I love this sort of survival sandbox game that mainly focuses on the sandbox elements but has small bits of survival crafting stuff here and there. It's kind of like Terraria in that sense, which is another game that I really like, and or Minecraft. And recently Corekeeper had its 1.0 release, and today I wanted to sit down with you and talk a little bit about Corekeeper and why I think it is one of the best games ever made. The story of Corekeeper is fairly simple. You and the homies out exploring, you find a weird statue, and then you get teleported to a different dimension. You find yourself in a cave, and that's where the game begins. Now, that is a very base understanding of the story of Corekeeper, and there really isn't much more to it. However, Corekeeper isn't about its story necessarily. It's not a game that bears that part of the game sort of in the heaviest suit. It is much more focused on the gameplay, and the gameplay is, to be quite honest, some of the best out there, combining both bullet hells with survival crafting, with Factorio, with Minecraft. It has a bunch of different elements. Not only can you build in this game and you can create your own little base, but you also have the NPCs from something like Terraria, where you build homes to your NPCs, which then acts as like merchants and storekeepers. And you have the boss fights from, again, a game like Terraria that ends up being like bullet hells, or just having different mechanics for you to conquer and fight. And it is all pretty good. I like pretty much all of it. That is like the general overview. However, when you go much more in depth with it, Corekeeper is a game about exploration at its core. It's what the game starts out with, and it's what you'll be doing for the vast majority of the time that you're playing. Because exploring Corekeeper is rewarding and it's fun. Corekeeper works on a system with points of interests. These points are randomly generated and can be different places for everybody. They have a specific amount of distance from the main area you spawn into that they spawn, and all of those areas can have different unique items, they can have different bosses, different enemies, different loot for you to collect, and all of that is added on top of biomes, random events, all of this sort of things. As an example, an early one that you will 100% encounter of these points of interest is a labyrinth, which after completing it and going all the way to the middle can have a chest inside that has items. However, not always, but sometimes you can find a labyrinth where if you explore the entire labyrinth, you find a unique gemstone. Now, that gemstone isn't just in a chest, it's like in a slightly differently altered labyrinth, so it's like on a pedestal instead. So once you pick that crystal up, you realize that you don't really know what to do with it, so you throw it into a chest and just forget about it for a little bit. Now fast forward, maybe 50 hours later, you're exploring the jungle. You find a temple. You go through that temple, and in it you find a blade. And then you realize slowly that wait, the merchant has a thing you can buy that requires a jet blade, which you have now. It also requires the crystal from before, so you go back and you forge that item. And that is a legendary one-off sword that only exists there. It has no durability. It has nothing. It is something like that, right? It is a game where you find mysteries all around it and then you sort of solve them by yourself. It is so fucking cool and fun to do at that, as these sort of things make your brain think and fantasize about, you know, what could be the next thing that you find and so on. And a little bit of a spoiler, I think that is when I have the most fun in these sort of games. I think this idea of exploring is just really cool, and I think Corekeeper does it fantastically. Now, underneath this mask of exploration, there's also a pretty in-depth skill system. Each thing that you do, you can fish, you mine through the walls, maybe you're gonna go around and do a bit of farming, has skills. Those skills don't just benefit that thing that you're doing. So mining skills don't just benefit mining, but there might be a skill that translates some of your mining stat over to combat, and same thing with fishing and so on. Each skill have their own like sort of in-depth skill tree that you can go over, and each of those things can be, leveled and sort of have an effect on you in combat when you're fighting the big monsters and bosses. And that is also translated to pets. Yes, you heard me right, pets. Because you can hatch pets in Corekeeper. Those pets also have a skill tree, also give you bonuses, can fight, and you can collect multiple variants, because of course you want to collect multiple variants. It's pets. And there's so much of this sort of thing. Very recently they started to work on summoning as a new skill, and in a recent update they added even more summoning books to the game. This is like sort of crazy to see. Just the sheer amount of effort that has been put in here is remarkable. Corekeeper is a fantastic game, and you might be wondering, so what do I do after I've explored the map? After I've found the points of interest, I've gathered the resources, then you fight the bosses. About, I'd say, the last maybe 25% of the game, in terms of when you complete the main story, is basically just a boss rush. This is not a bad thing, because despite the fact that Corekeeper's combat might look simple, the building and build crafting you can do in this game is wild. And the combat itself is sort of added towards that. It is in and of itself not anything special to write home about. But because the equipment and the things that you're using to fight are super cool and unique, it becomes that. And it is one of the funnest things I've done. Because you see, you don't just want to kill the bosses once, of course not. You want to kill them multiple times, as they all have multiple drops. Some of them are extremely useful, some of them are just a small statue variation of themselves, and some are literally just food or resource items. There's still a reason to kill the bosses. They usually have some unique drop, especially by the latter half of the game. They all have their own unique drops and their own unique fights. And those fights are actually kind of fucking cool. Kind of feeling like an actual like boss game, you know, sort of like Dark Souls or whatever, where you do have these big bosses and everything like that have a massive health pool and do a lot of damage. But now it's also a bullet hell. Each of them have their own mechanics and sort of gimmicks that you have to deal with. One of my least favorite examples is one of the last bosses I killed, which has the Terraria Eater of World designs, or Wall of Flesh I think it's called, which is essentially just that will roll over you and instantly kill you. It is not the most fun boss and fight in the game because of that. I think that's like a really annoying gimmick. But there are a lot of these sort of gimmicky boss fights, and most of them work really well, even surprisingly so. And on top of that, you don't just have the main boss fights, you also have side boss fights, which are mainly taking form in slimes, which have different stats. You know, you have your fire slime and so on. And those slimes can drop eggs, which you can then hatch into slime pits. So you can also collect that. And all of that is sort of what you'll be doing in Corekeeper. And honestly, that sounds fun, because it is. But what is even better about this game is that it's still getting updates. Like I said, it recently got an update that added the summoning tombs. And I don't think just because it's in 1.0 that they'll stop working on Corekeeper. I think Corekeeper has a bright future ahead of it. It is a fantastically fun little game. And while conceptually it is fairly simple, I think the execution allows you to go so in depth with some things that I've never quite seen anything like it. It is fantastic, both from a gameplay standpoint, but also just a music standpoint, because the soundtracks in Corekeeper, they are so good. They are vibey, they are fun, and I really like them. And while we are on the subject of things I really like with Core, I have to say, farming in this game is top notch. Stardew Valley, go home. There's a new king in town. No, not quite. But it does have a really cool farming system, and that's because when you're farming in Corekeeper, you don't just grow crops. Obviously, farming has its own skill, and each plant that you get has to be placed in the soil from where it is. As an example, if you're getting the iron carrots, you have to place them in stone, whereas normal food like the hardberry or the glow tulip can be placed in dirt, and so on. This sort of evolves throughout all of the different biomes, of which there are like 6 or 7, there are quite a few biomes, to be fair, and like each of them have their own unique plant life that can be placed in their own unique dirt, which you can take back to your home base. Like if you smash a wall, you can take that and then use that as the dirt, and then you sort of create your own farm. And that sort of extends to it. And you see, that's not the only thing with farming, because you see, when you place your crop, there is a chance that it will turn golden. When it is golden, it is, it gives you an extra buff. It is sort of a rare occurrence that then makes your character slightly stronger when you eat it, which you then cook into a bazillion different recipes, as every single food item, including fish, meats that you find, the farming you can do, the crops that you farm can be sort of put together and made into a form of food that then buffs your character. This can be anywhere from 25% extra damage for 10 seconds to the fact that you're glowing and running faster. There are so many different fucking foods, and those can be golden as well if you use golden ingredients for them. And this sort of thing is really cool to me, as I like this idea of buffing up before a boss fight and then you go in. And Corekeeper has a lot of that. And it is one of those things that I personally find myself appreciating more and more in Corekeeper. And to add on top of that, you also have your armor, which has set bonuses. And of course, not just set bonuses, because that would be too simple, but it also has straight up drip. Some of that armor is so drippy, it is insane. The monk ropes that you unlock late game are fucking insanely cool. I love them. It has to be said, right? Like, those are dope. And they have their own set bonuses and so on. They can range from anywhere from you being able to summon extra minions to immunity to certain damage types to straight up just you being able to do, more damage or like a percentage buff in magic or something like that. There are a lot of different armor effects and sets and so on. There's even one that requires you to travel all around the game and collect different items to then open a secret vault door to then get a secret armor set. There are so much to do in Corekeeper. It is quite literally insane. It is such a worthy game to play. And now you might be wondering, well, there's a skill tree. Does that mean there's also a max level? The answer is yes. The max level of each skill is 100, and when you reach that, you get an extra 5 points, so you can just level that extra perk slot up. It is so fucking rewarding and so satisfying. And to add on top of that, of course, you can play co-op. There is co-op in the game, and that's all great and good and dandy, and I love them. My main issues with Corekeeper is very simply put that it's too good. I want more Corekeeper. There's also, if I'm being more realistic, a little bit of an issue in the sense that sometimes some things in this map can feel almost impossible. I spent 50 hours searching for a single gym before finding it. It wasn't the best experience in the world, but I also realized that that's a personal decision to go hunting for that. And it's not something that you have to do per se, so it's not something that is like the biggest deal in the world, in my opinion. It's just something to sort of take note of. There's also, in my opinion, and one of the sort of bigger negatives, because I like farming, it can take forever to like harvest and then replant your crops. I would love to see like some way of automating that. We already have vehicles in the game, not just boats, but also cars. Maybe add like a farm car that can fertilize soil as you drive over it. That would be neat, or like something. You'll figure something out, I'm sure. So as you can see, there's a lot to love in this game, and I heavily recommend it if you like games like Terraria or anything like that. For myself, it's a game that I think I will be enjoying a lot more in the future as well. I already have a playthrough started with my girlfriend. I love this game a lot, and I do recommend it to practically anybody, and I will preach about it because it is just that good. That being said, of course, like I said, I recommend it, but I'm also done yapping now. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I genuinely appreciate your company here. I appreciate the fact that you want to watch these videos and sit here with me. And thank you so much. I'll see you all next time. Have a wonderful day wherever you live. And I'll see you all next time.